Okay, thanks, Rishabh, and hello, everyone. So as Rishabh mentioned, in today's webinar, we are going to see how we can add different templates for sheeting in our multi-layer panels and how we can generate sharp drawings for sheetings. First, I'm just having 3 identical walls here. They're all generic 6 inches, and we have also added a layer finish one. So if we select a wall, when we go to edit type, in edit, we have the finish one layer added, and the thickness for that layer is 5/8 inch. Let's click on OK and OK. Now we are going back to MWF Advanced Metal and Settings. This is where we can set all the templates for our multi-layer panels. In here, the first wall type that we have selected is the one that we also have in our project. You can see that 2 layers of the wall are listed here, and we can assign different templates to them. On the top, we have the tabs for structural templates, secondary templates, opening types, and sheeting templates. In this webinar, we are going to generate different sheeting templates. So I'm just going to click on sheeting template. We already have a default template, but as any other default template, if you would like to create your own settings, we highly suggest you to copy the default template. So we are just going to add a name for the first template that we are creating. We would like to place the sheetings horizontally staggered. So I'm just going to type horizontally staggered and OK. Now we can select it. This one still has the default settings, and we can click on modify. On the first tab for general settings, you can change the sheeting family. And if you would like to place a gap between sheeting panels, you can place a gap here. Here, you have the choice to select if you would like to enforce minimum and resize previous or split previous sheeting in half when your sheetings are smaller than minimum dimension condition. Here you can add sheeting extensions, and on the bottom we have these 2 options. On the left we have label prefix, and on the right we have the material. If you remember from our previous webinar, we can label members by BIMSF label and by BIMSF schedule label. When we label them by BIMSF label, we are assigning unique labels to all the members of our panel, structural, sheeting, and secondary. But when we are selecting BIMSF schedule label, MWF will look for all the identical members, and it will assign identical labels to those identical members. In that case, we need to look up at our tag mapping file. Again, in our previous webinar, Thais has shown you our tag mapping file and how you can change it. But for our sheetings, you can also add a new prefix as a tag mapping for our BIMSF schedule label here. So this is what label prefix means. In the second tab for sheeting layout, we have the layout selection. You can set it to basic vertical tiled, basic horizontal tiled, horizontally staggered, vertically staggered, and optimized. So if we select them, we can also check their preview here on the right. The next option here is for layout direction, how you would like to start placing your sheetings from the start point, from the end point, on both ends. So it will place full sheeting on both ends, and it will continue placing them to the center bay, or at center bay. So you will place full sheeting at center bay, and it will continue placing them to the edges. The next option here is members to align to. So the edges of these sheetings should be aligned to our structural members. So which structural members you would like to choose for this alignment. We can select vertical stud, cripple, and vertical stud opening, king openings, door kings, and window kings. And on the bottom, we have the settings for horizontal alignments. If you would like to use sheet dimensions or the framing, and the last option here is to start with half sheet. If you check that option off, and you have already selected the 4x8, and for example, you are going to use basic vertical tiled, the first sheeting that is going to be placed is 2x8, not 4x8. That's exactly what this option does. Now let me go back and make sure that we have already selected horizontally staggered, because that is what the name is. And then opening settings. We have two options here on the top, which are pretty important. The first one is ignore all openings. Some of our clients, they prefer to just place all the sheetings, and they then cut out the doors, windows, and openings in the construction area. In that case, you can always check off the option for ignore all openings, and this is how they would look like. The other option is break sheeting panels at opening bounds. As you can see here in the preview, when we are placing the sheetings has been cut at all the opening bounds. That is why we are having these horizontal lines here. But if I uncheck this one, they will place all the sheetings no matter where the door, window, and opening is, and then MWF will cut out the opening out of the sheeting. The next settings that we have here is for door sheeting extensions, window sheeting extensions, and opening sheeting extensions. We also have this option for all these different type of openings to ignore openings with widths below. If you're having a really small opening in your panel and you would like to ignore that, you can just add the tolerance here. And the last tab is for name line settings, which we are not going to cover that in this webinar. When the settings are added for this template, we can just click on OK, and this one is set. Now we are going to create two other templates as well. So we can select default template, copy, and this one is going to be vertically staggered. You can click on OK. Let's modify this one, and we just need to make sure that the layout selection has been set to vertical staggered, and OK. And the last one, we can just simply vertically tile them. Again, we can use the default template, copy, and vertical. OK. Let's make sure that we modify it. And we are going to set it to basic vertical tiled. Just need to also make sure that we are setting these settings. If we don't set them up, we won't receive an error message, but the alignment won't be, the sheeting edges won't be aligned to the member of our panels. So let's click on OK here and double check on the vertically staggered one as well. Yes. Now when all the templates are set for our sheetings, we can go back to our wall type map. And for the generic 6-inch wall, we can set the structural template. So it's going to be our default luggage template. You can highlight it and then select. And for finish one, when we click on none, we are going to select sheeting, and we can select between the ones that we just created. You can select horizontally staggered, select, and OK. Now the template, the multi-layer template, is finished for our generic 6 inches. We can click on OK. If I scroll back, we have 3 walls. You can mass select them, operations, drop down, and quick create. It will take a few seconds to generate all these panels and layers together. When this is done, we can switch to our section view just to take a closer look. Let me change these. Okay. For our default template, we have selected horizontally staggered sheeting. Now, what if we want to change them as an instance? In that case, we just need to select our panel label or the wall itself or any member of the panel here in the operations drop-down menu and click on wall properties. You will see all the layers and their templates. Now, if you would like to switch the template, you just need to unlock it. You can click on instance and you can select another one. For example, vertically staggered. Select and OK. It will assign the new template here. For the last one, let's select panel 3, operations drop down, wall properties, unlock, and this one is going to be just vertical. Vertical, select. This is assigned here and OK. Sorry. Now everything is set. Let's check the labels. I'm going to select one of the sheetings. And when we scroll down, we have BIMSF label, but we do not have BIMSF schedule label for this sheeting. Because just like our single layer panels, the first time that you would like to generate BIMSF schedule label, you need to select any member of your panels. Back to MWF Advanced Metal. Here we have this tab for output options, and then we have the command for add member distribution. You can select distribution strategy type A and OK. Now if we select any member and when we scroll down, a new parameter has been added here and it has been labeled. By default, BIMSF schedule label for our sheeting is SH. And again, if you would like to change that, you just need to come here to setting, sheeting template, and you can add a new name here as the label prefix. So this was how we can generate the sheeting templates for our multi-layer panels. Now we can start generating shop drawings. I'm going to go to our drawing operations. Let's click here and create default shop settings. We are going to use our default shop settings to generate the settings for our multi-layer panels. Let's double click here. First thing that we need to mention here is that on the bottom right, we have the sheeting layout properties. There are two tabs here, multi-layer and standard. Standard is for single layer panels, just for single layer panels. And multi-layer, here you can add different shop drawing sheets for different layers of your multi-layer. You can also add one for MEP shop. As you can see, there's one here, one for framing shop, and one for the sheeting. You can add MEP shop for standard too, but you cannot add a sheeting sheet for standard layer. So first thing, we need to make sure that we are working on multi-layer. Next thing, we need to edit our sheeting schedule. By default, you will get the sheeting schedule, but we always need to double click and make sure that this is what we were looking for. In the viewport tab, you can select layer by function assignment. We have assigned the sheeting to finish one layer. So we need to uncheck substrate and make sure that we are checking finish one. The sheet insert point and view insert point. My colleague Thais has explained all these items in our previous webinar, so I'm not going to repeat those. But here we can all set them to mid-center to mid-center. Then in the second tab, we have the layout. These are just the fonts and their sizes for the title, column header, and column body. But the important option that we have here is for itemize every instance. If you are using BIMSF label, you always need to check that off because BIMSF label always itemize every instance. It will give every member of the panel a unique label. But if you are using BIMSF schedule label, you need to make sure that you are unchecking this item here. Now we go to data and let's check our fields. The first one is master container. For our multi-layer panels, we have master container, and for our single layer panels, we have BIMSF container. The next option is count. Then we have BIMSF sheet width, BIMSF sheet height, family, and mark. We need to also add BIMSF schedule label. So let's remove mark and then click on add and add BIMSF schedule label. So when we scroll down, we have this option here. You can select and OK. A new field is added to the bottom of the list. You can select it and move it to the top. It would be nicer if we move count to the bottom as well. Now we have these settings on the right. These settings can be different from one field to the other. For example, for master container, we need it to be a hidden field, and this one is going to be our sorting column. If you would like any other name to show up as the header text, you can just edit it here. And here on the bottom for the widths, you can either calculate the widths of each column automatically, or you can uncheck this option and add a new value. The next one is BMSF schedule label. This is not a hidden field. We don't want this to be our sorting column, and we are not going to filter empty values. Then we have BMSF sheet width and BMSF sheet height. We need to set these two as sorting column as well. And then we have count and family. When everything is set here, we can click on OK. And now our sheeting schedule is set. The next one that we need is an elevation view for our sheeting. So we can click on Add. In Views, we can select Elevation View and OK. We are going to name this view Sheeting. Sorry, it's all caps lock. Sheeting Elevation View. For dimensions, if you scroll down, the first few dimension settings that we have are all for framing, but when we scroll down, we will find 3 different options for sheeting as well. The left sheeting height joints, so we are going to select that. Right sheeting height joints, this can be useful when you are staggering the sheeting, and then top sheeting opening. So we can select them all, or one, or just 2. The next tab is for labels. Here, the first one is for labeling panel members. So label panel members by method. And the second one is for label sheeting. Some of our clients, they select both items on one elevation view. Yes, you can do that, but that would make your elevation view very crowded, and we highly suggest you not to. Here in this view, we are just going to label the sheeting. Now we are going to go to our settings. The first thing, again, sheet insert point and view insert point. Let's set it to mid-center to mid-center. Viewport type, you can set it to no title or one viewport. If we are having the viewport, what is going to be the name? So we can write down all in caps, like sheeting elevation view. If you are having any templates and you would like to assign that to those views, you can assign them here. The detail level, it can be set to fine, and I think the best one for sheeting would be shading with edges. And here you can also set the scale for that view. Again, it depends on the dimensions of your panel and also your sheet layout, but you can set the scale here. Now we are generating this shop drawing just for the sheeting and finish one layer. We need to make sure that we are selecting that layer. The next one is the dimension settings, and the last one is labels. Just like framing, we need to select our label method. In the dropdown, we have by label, by distribution, and by schedule label. We are generating the cut list by schedule label, and we need to have the same on our elevation view. So we can select it here and OK. 2 views has been set for our sheeting. Now we need to come back here to our sheet layout properties. We don't have any MEP, so we can just remove this one and we can add a new one as sheeting shop. And OK. Let's double click. Just like our framing shop drawings, we are going to assign different views to different zones. The layout name, MWF sheet 11 by 17. And here when we scroll down, we can assign our sheeting elevation view to the elevation zone. And we can assign the sheeting schedule to upper left zone. When we click on OK, our sheeting shop drawing is set. Now let's also take a look at our framing shop. Let's double click. We don't have any hardware schedule, so we can just set it to none. We don't have 3D MEP, so we can set that one to none as well. Yes, we would like to have RCP view, framing elevation, framing section view. Let's just remove that one as well. And when we scroll down, we have framing, floor plan, sheeting schedule, and framing cut list. We have moved sheeting schedule to the sheeting shop, so we can remove this one as well. This is all good, and we can click on OK. The last thing that we need to make sure is for our framing shop drawing. Let's check if all the scales are set. Framing floor framing floor plan. Let's go to view settings. Okay, this one is set to 3/8. That seems fine, and let's click on OK. We can generate one shop drawing, and then we will come back and change some settings again. The last thing that we need to change here is in miscellaneous settings. So to generate BIMSF schedule label, we can either go to output dropdown and run add member distribution, or we can come here and check off this option. So MWF by default will run distribution for all the panels before generating shop drawings for them. Now everything is set. We can click on OK and close. No sheets has been generated before. We can select these panels. Back to MWF Advanced Metal and shop drawings. And OK. When we open the dropdown for sheets, for each panel, we are getting 2 sheets. Panel 1, 1, panel 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, and 3, 2. The first one is for framing, and the second one is for sheeting. Maybe I should have set the scale for this view a bit higher. I can change it here as well. And when we move the elevation view, you will see a line where you can make sure that all the views are aligned together. So this is going to be our elevation view. And when we click on panel 1, 2, we will have the sheeting view. Like this. We have the BIMSF schedule label on our elevation view and also in our panel, in our sheeting schedule. Width, height, and quantity for each panel label that we have. So that was it for our webinar today. Do you have any questions regarding our sheeting shop drawings?
All right, thank you, Parnaz, for the demonstration. And we'll now open the floor for your questions. And once again, you can either raise your hand in the GoToWebinar dashboard so that we can unmute you, or you can type it via the questions tab and send it to us via chat. In the meantime, as we wait for your questions to come in, I'd like to invite you to visit our LinkedIn channel at linkedin.com/company/StruxSoftSolutions, where you can find weekly educational content, articles about trending topics, company news, and also where you can view the recorded version of this webinar. Okay, we'll just wait a few more seconds to see if any last-minute questions happen to pop in. All right, that looks like a wrap for today. If you had any questions about this presentation or would like to set up a one-on-one demonstration to learn about our features, then feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details will be provided along with the recording of this webinar tomorrow via email. And having said that, I'd like to thank you for joining us today, and we all hope that you have a great day ahead.